This is a story that sounds like it could come straight out of a movie, and you won't believe what happened in court today. Kirk Frost has been very firm in saying he is innocent, but the CCTV footage presented in court tells a completely different story. Trust me, it doesn't look good for him at all. Today, we're discussing the kind of evidence that can completely turn a case upside down. So what exactly is in this footage, and what does it mean for Kirk, Mendeecees, and who is really to blame here? Everything just took a huge turn, so stick around for the details. For those who aren't familiar with this case, let's rewind a bit. The battle between Kirk Frost and Mendeecees has now reached the courtroom. What started as a heated argument quickly escalated into something much more serious. Both men were accusing each other, presenting completely different versions of events. At the beginning, Kirk stayed quiet, but later he began claiming to be the victim, saying that he had been attacked. On the other hand, Mendeecees said that Kirk had started everything, and that Kirk was just trying to cover up his actions. At that point, it was simply one person's word against another's, so no one really knew who to believe. But this is where things began to change. Evidence was introduced, and when that happens, things get serious. Today, the court was presented with hard evidence, something that couldn't be denied or argued against. No more back and forth, no more rumors, just clear, undeniable facts. And let me tell you, Kirk's position does not look good. Now, let's dive into what that footage actually showed. Picture this, a high-profile event, with celebrities everywhere. It was supposed to be a normal evening, with cameras flashing and the buzz of the crowd in the air. But then, something unexpected happened. A fight broke out, and everything changed. The CCTV footage is where things took a dramatic turn. It was finally revealed exactly what went down that night, and it was a game changer for the case. Kirk's version of events was completely debunked when the footage was shown. It wasn't Mendeecees or some stranger who threw the first punch, it was Kirk himself. This whole time, he had been acting like the victim, even though he had been telling everyone that he was attacked first. The video showed Kirk getting in Mendeecees' face, the argument escalating quickly, and before anyone could do anything, Kirk threw the first punch. That was the moment everything turned. Let's talk about the reaction in the courtroom. You could feel the tension in the room when the video started playing. Mendeecees just sat there, arms crossed, watching as the video revealed the truth without him having to say a word. In real time, Kirk's narrative of being the victim completely fell apart. It was clear that Kirk hadn't been expecting this. He had been so confident earlier, but now it was evident he was unprepared for what was about to happen. Of course, the video quickly went viral online. It was summed up in one tweet: Kirk lied, and the camera caught him. It's over. People were quick to call him out, saying things like, "Video doesn't lie, that's why you can't trust everything people say." Others were mocking him with jokes and memes, classic internet behavior. But Mendeecees' reaction to the whole thing was interesting, too. According to reports, he just sat back and grinned when the video played. Imagine being caught red-handed in front of everyone after lying about what happened for weeks and painting the other person as the villain. Mendeecees didn't need to say anything, his expression said it all. That was a defining moment in the case. Once the video had spoken, the whole situation changed. And if you thought the CCTV footage was the worst of it, the prosecution had more bombshells to drop. Text messages were revealed, and these messages were a game changer. The prosecution presented real messages that Kirk had sent before the altercation took place. As the court listened to them being read aloud, the tension hit a new level. One of the messages literally said, "Excuse me, but that suggests this wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment fight, and it shows that Kirk knew something was going to happen." These messages painted a picture of something planned. Further texts showed Kirk talking about Mendeecees in the days leading up to the event. He even said, "I don't care what happens, he needs to know I'm not playing." This was huge because it meant that this wasn't just about the fight anymore, it was about premeditation. Kirk had been claiming he was innocent, that he was the one who was attacked, but these messages told a different story. The courtroom fell silent when those texts were displayed on the screen. Everyone seemed at a loss for words. Even the jury appeared stunned by the contents of the messages. As for Kirk, his demeanor completely changed. He looked like someone who had just seen a ghost. He wasn't shaking his head like he had been before, he wasn't confidently looking around the room, he was sitting still, barely moving, and you could tell he knew things were about to go very badly for him. Let's quickly talk about the judge's reaction. Anyone who has been in a courtroom knows it's never a good sign when the judge gives you a certain look. And this judge was clearly not impressed. At one point, the judge even paused the proceedings to address the content of the texts. This was a pivotal moment for Kirk because any chance he had of controlling the narrative was obliterated when the judge remarked, "These messages paint a concerning picture of Mr. Frost's intentions that night." Things were already looking bad, but now it seemed like the case was turning against Kirk in a big way. To make matters worse, Kirk's wife was now pulled into the mess. Yes, messages from her were leaked, and they didn't help Kirk's case at all. In one of the texts, she said, "I told him not to do it, but he never listens." So even though she had warned him that something bad was going to happen, Kirk went ahead with it anyway. Now, not only is Kirk facing legal problems, but his personal life is falling apart too. The court, the media, and everyone else now knows that Kirk is struggling. He's not just losing in court, but also losing the trust of the people around him. And just when you think things couldn't get worse for Kirk, the prosecution dropped yet another bombshell: audio recordings. Yes, real audio recordings were played in court, and when they hit play, everyone heard Kirk's voice clearly on the speakers. "I already know what I'm going to do. No loose ends." The room gasped. The jury exchanged looks, and Kirk sat there, stunned. As the prosecution let the recording play on, it only got worse. The recordings revealed discussions about managing business and making sure no one spoke up. There were also vague references to trying to control the situation. Then came the most unexpected moment of all. The judge turned to Kirk and asked, "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Kirk, unable to speak, just sat there in silence. What could he possibly say? He had been caught in every way possible. But the bombshells didn't stop there. A new witness was called to the stand, one of Kirk's own friends. As soon as this friend started speaking, it was clear that Kirk knew what was coming. The friend said bluntly, "I tried to tell him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He thought he was untouchable." The witness described how Kirk had been proud of his plans and thought he could get away with it, even ignoring the advice of those closest to him. By the time this testimony was finished, it was clear to everyone in the courtroom that Kirk not only looked guilty but was also completely isolated. The judge, after hearing all of this, took a deep breath and turned to Kirk. "Mr. Frost," the judge said, "it seems you have not been entirely truthful with this court." At this point, Kirk's chances were looking slim. The prosecution is now seeking the maximum penalty. They want to make an example of Kirk, and honestly, it seems like no one is trying to defend him. Even if Kirk manages to avoid jail time, his career is effectively over. Once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Kirk's reputation is shattered, and he is now officially out of a job. But just when we thought things couldn't get worse, there are rumors circulating that even more evidence is on the way. If that's true, Kirk might be in even more trouble than anyone realizes. What do you think? Do you think everything is ruined for Kirk? Share your thoughts in the comments. By the time this testimony was finished, it was clear to everyone in the courtroom that Kirk not only looked guilty but was also completely isolated. The judge, after hearing all of this, took a deep breath and turned to Kirk. "Mr. Frost," the judge said, "it seems you have not been entirely truthful with this court." At this point, Kirk's chances were looking slim. The prosecution is now seeking the maximum penalty. They want to make an example of Kirk, and honestly, it seems like no one is trying to defend him. Even if Kirk manages to avoid jail time, his career is effectively over. Once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Kirk's reputation is shattered, and he is now officially out of a job. But just when we thought things couldn't get worse, there are rumors circulating that even more evidence is on the way. If that's true, Kirk might be in even more trouble than anyone realizes. What do you think? Do you think everything is ruined for Kirk? Share your thoughts in the comments.